I don't want to be wed to some old pimple-faced carcass, Sharina said, nor to anybody. Leora took her sister's arm. Whatever it's about, we won't find out by standing here. The entrance hall was empty, except for Lorcan, the Corridom, a dignified man the two sisters delighted in calling uncle, although he was old enough to be their grandfather. When they went to him, his somber expression lightened. "Damicellas." He bowed to each of them. "We saw the rider from Carcos," Leora said. "Do you know what it's about? Is he with father now? What a mystery!" Sharina stood on tiptoe to kiss the old man on the cheek. "They've gone up to the presence chamber," Lorcan replied. "But you're not to interrupt them with your chatter. Should it be appropriate, Dom Aiden will summon you. Until then, I advise you to remember the adage about the rabbit horn and the scorpion ant's nest." Leora had always hated that story's moral, that terrible things happened to children who poked their noses where they didn't belong. She suspected it was made up expressly to discourage curiosity. "And no sneaking around the back passages, hoping for a look." Lorcan shook one forefinger at them, but his eyes twinkled. "I know you, young scamps." "We would never behave in such a disreputable manner," Leora said, gathering her dignity. "What must you think of us?" "I think," he said more gently, "that your lady mother has need of you this hour, and that you would do well to attend her rather than meddle in men's business. And to remember that rules are not made to torment you, but to keep you safe. Go along, then." Further argument would be futile. She'd only end up sounding childish, and Sharina would follow her lead. "I'm nearly 15. I ought to be patient," Leora thought. She knew what her mother would have her do: sit quietly and do needlework, or supervise the kitchen, or any of 100 boring things, while the men make the important decisions. But how could she help father if she didn't know what was going on? The answer was that she couldn't. That wasn't what girls were allowed to do. "Aren't we going to snoop around and get some answers?" Sharina said, grabbing Leora's arm. It was not honorable, as father had said a year ago, the last time they'd gone exploring. Leora's cheeks still burned from the scolding. Father had assumed, rightly, that she had led Sharina into mischief. He'd upbraided Leora not only for poking around where she had no business, but for endangering her younger sister. "What if you'd fallen or gotten trapped? Those passageways aren't safe. What kind of example were you setting for Sharina, who looks up to you? You are a daughter of Hastur, and should have known better. I am deeply disappointed in you." Blinking back tears of mortification, Leora had vowed to never give her father cause to be ashamed of her again. "No," she said to Sharina, with a trace of regret. "Not this time. I'm sure we'll find out what it's all about." Aiden went through the household accounts with his longtime friend and paxman, Connor Dariel. The two men met in the comfortable, slightly shabby chamber Aiden referred to as his office. The furnishings were old enough to have acquired a collection of scratches, water rings, and candle burns from generations of careless boys. Aiden was responsible for a goodly number from sneaking into his grandfather's private chamber. Aiden steadfastly refused to allow Graciela, his present wife, into his office. Connor had once remarked that the lady wouldn't depart without having rearranged everything in such a way to be unfindable, but there had been no malice in his words. Connor and Graciela got along reasonably well, and as for Aiden, he had married her for her family's power and her housekeeping, not for affection. He and Fiona Maria Aylard, his first wife, had shared a great love, and an even greater passion, but it had brought him nothing beyond her death and one surviving and most perplexing daughter.